Good morning. I want to get everybody right off the bat. We've already got some prayer requests that are coming in, so I want to make sure that that you guys just know that we are going to keep those in prayer. Again, if there's anybody that has something that they would like to lift up on our behalf so that we can pray for you, let us know. Just type it in there. Also, if there's somebody that you know might need to hear this teaching today, you don't know what it is, but I'm going to tell you what it is right now. We've been talking about the now. We've been talking about utilizing time and the power and the authority that we have, that God has given to us. It's super exciting because what I've noticed from last week is some questions came in about, how do I start to be more effective in the time that God's given to me. And there's some people that are like very, how can I say, like they are very selfish with time. And there are some people that are very selfless with time. Time is something that is a very, very, very valuable thing that we've got to learn to find balance in. Time management, to me, is really having an understanding of what God has given to us and how do we disperse that. It's important that we do keep a balance of knowing that there are some things that we need to be selfish within our own time, but there are some things that we need to be selfless with, and that's helping others, even those that are struggling. There's a lot of people in this world, that really struggle in not time management, but they don't know their purpose. They don't know where they're going, what to do. They kind of exist. If you're one of those people that just feel like you exist, it's okay. You're not alone. There's definitely a ton of people that go through that same thing, and experience the different levels. The first thing that you need to do is get a piece of paper or get something that you're taking notes down on, because what we are learning with all the changes and transitioning that's taking place, I'm gonna just kind of spearhead this as we all know it is. But churches aren't the same. They're just not. There's a lot of people that have gotten very used to being at home. There are some people that have become a little bit distant from God because of this. Nothing bad or nothing, that's keeping them from going to church, but it's just it's a lifestyle. We're in a new era. We are in a new era, and in that new era, things are different. And so, what we want to do with us is we want to start taking this time. First and foremost, when we start off, we always have praise and worship. Why? Because ushering in the presence of God is probably the most important thing that we can do. We need God's presence, and we take that with us everywhere we go. But sometimes there's people that don't take that time. And here we go again with the time management. Ushering in the presence of God, seeking first the kingdom of God and His righteousness. That's the most important thing that we've got to learn to emphasize on. There's going to be a lot of things that you guys are going to hear us kind of be on repeat, if I could say that. But know that it's not being done because we have nothing to talk about, but it's really being done because we need you to grasp these concepts.
It's a lot.
It's a ton.
It's a lot. It's a good, solid spiritual meal that we're about to have. So if, this is always on record, so if you don't catch something or you're like slow way down, like you can always wait till the end and then go back and kind of really marinate in the lesson, just because it is a lot, and it's a lot for us too.
Well, the reason why I like people to be live is because I really want the interaction. We have people waiting. If you have questions, if there's something that you're struggling with, and we need to try to figure out how we can approach that. This is time management right now, because we're not just asking you to come on so that we can give you a uplifting word, and it's not going to do anything to change your life. We want to strategize. We want to help you prepare and be successful in life. And I know that's what God's plan and purpose is. Just know that what we're getting ready to cover is so essential right now. Even if you're somebody that you feel like you're a pretty good time manager, you got your day planner out, you got your next 3 months planned out, You schedule every little thing. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But there are still some concepts that need to be learned, because sometimes being so self-centered does not give you the opportunity to help others in that time management as well. So that there's a balance. We've got to be good stewards with the time that God's given to us, but at the same hand, we've got to be willing to be selfless with some of that time so we can help others learn and grow as well. We're going to start off by just saying that the very first, the main gift that God's handed out to every person on earth, the one gift that He's given to everybody, I don't even know how many, was there like 7 billion people or something in this world? 7 out of the 7 billion people, God's given us all this one gift. He didn't discriminate. It isn't based off of your age. It's not something that, is what are you laughing at? It's not something that is discriminatory of your skin color, if you're tall, if you're short. That one gift is time. Time is given to every single person, and it's cool when we think about it. We've heard it before. We've talked about it. The subjects are very light, and we don't take the time to really slow down and break down what it is. There's 24 hours in a day, guys. There are 24. Every single person is given 24 hours in a day. Okay, so let's just put this into a in general breakdown. Okay, so there's 24 hours in a day. Most general people will spend 6 to 10 hours of that sleeping. Okay, I'm giving the 10 hours to the people that love to sleep, the 6 hours to the ones that are trying to cram it in. 8 to 12 hours of that time working. So are you doing the math? Good. No, I'm just kidding. So 8 to 12 hours of that working. Okay, that leaves us about 5 to 7 hours a day to watch TV, work on projects, do our hobbies, go get your nails done, eat. Thanks, Ken. Eat. That's important. I guess we should do that. And all the little small things, doing laundry, all the things that just help us to stay functioning in time. So I mean, we ideally have 5 to 7 hours a day that we need to be effective. And I'm going on the large end. That's just if you're a 10 hours a day sleeper, if you're a 12-hour a day worker. Right. I mean, you're chewing up a lot of time doing things that are important to you. But I think it's cool when you think about it, because when we take the number of time, the hours, we look at somebody's life and like, man, they're really busy, but their busyness could be productive toward their purpose.
Right. I think that, write this down, time is an interruption of eternity. We just got done last week talking about, the difference between chronos and kairos, and talking about living a life in the kairos, but also living a life in the now. And so time is a gift from God. And I did a teaching, I don't know how long ago, a few years back, I think, and I had talked about time. But I never mentioned this, and time is an interruption of eternity, because we are spirit first and a dirt body. And so in order for our spirit to be legal here, we have to be in a body. Right. And so why do you think one of the hardest things for people who are in prison is their time? Because they're told exactly what to do, when to do it, what time to do it. So when you get that freedom of time stripped away from you, there's a void in your heart.
But if you talk to somebody, that's been incarcerated, one of the biggest strengths they had is that structured time. Right. When they're released from incarceration, they have a hard time functioning, because now time is expanded. They're not told, this is what time you wake up, this is what time you shower, this is what time you eat. And so they have to create that discipline on how to do that. And that's where a lot of our problem is. I think a lot of us come into that place where we are not disciplined in the time that God has given to us. Right. And that's where we struggle in our purpose. That's where we struggle in life in general.
So no better way to talk about time is talking about the beginning of time. So if you turn your Bibles to Genesis 1:14. Genesis 1:14. I'll give you guys just a little minute to get there. I am part of the new generation, so I use my phone. Just kidding. And it says, and God said, let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from night, and let them serve as signs to mark the sacred times, days, and years.
So time was given to us to measure the purpose of our lives. Time was given to us to measure the purpose of our lives. I want you to write it down, because that's a statement that you've got to read several times for it to really absorb. Think about that. Time was given to us, right? God gave us time in order to measure the purpose of our life. What have we done from the time we've entered the world to current state? And that's how we measure time. We don't, when we talk to somebody and we say, hey, how old are you? We're asking them, what we're asking is, what is your length of time?
Right. And the great thing about that is, like, time isn't, we can't stop time, but we can control our time. Time is controllable, but it's not stoppable. It'll keep going. Just like when, somebody, again, leading back to the incarceration, if somebody's incarcerated, their time, again, is managed in a certain way, but the time out here keeps going. It doesn't stop and do what that person who is incarcerated is doing. It keeps on going. Time keeps on going. So there's people who miss out on seeing their kids being raised. There's people who miss out on certain events because even though that they have managed time there, the time out here is continually going.
But they feel like time has stopped. You've heard people say, man, time has stood still, because there's a limit on what you're doing when you're incarcerated, right? The same way with us, I think that sometimes we feel that we're limited on our time, and I can tell somebody, man, I'm really busy, I don't have a lot of time, and somebody else's opinion can say, why don't you? Like, we both have the same amount of time in the day. The difference is, some people are so selfish with their time that that's all they do, is they structure everything around their time.
Right.
You hear people all the time, oh, I need me time, I need, time for me, and it's good to have the balance. I'm not saying it's wrong, but when it's always about just you, then you become ineffective in the world. Dr. Monroe said this, and if you have again, if you're taking notes, write this statement down. Dr. Monroe said, what you are and what you become depends on how you use your time. What you are and what you become depends on how you use your time. There are so many people that have so much gifting and purpose in their life, and they're doing nothing. Why? They're frustrated because they haven't discovered that. And this is something that I know that we've talked my wife, we've talked several times, and we've said, this is something that we need to bring back in on Sundays and reteach. Not because there's those people that haven't heard it 1,000 times that know us, but it's part of a principle that I think it's very important that we are reminded of. Some of us need that refresher. Some of us know it and we understand it, but we still haven't applied it.
Right.
And I think this is something that we're learning, but we need to start off today with understanding the concept of time.
Right, because when God created everything, and He created the earth, and He created us, the one thing He told Adam was manage it, and with that came time.
Yep.
With that came time, and so I don't think He was just like manage it, because I kind of feel like I feel like Adam was a human just like us, you know what I mean? So He's like, well, what am I supposed to be managing? And I think God gave him a very good breakdown of like, this is yours, this is for you to manage. Just like I said, you can't stop time, but you can control it. We
were created to dominate. And what I mean by dominate is not dominate one another. We were created to manage and have management over everything in the world. And that's what God said at the very beginning in Genesis. This is why I feel like it's so super important to have a very firm understanding. This is why I do Crooks to Crowns. This is why I know some people get tired of hearing the teachings that I do in Crooks to Crowns, sometimes they're like, you're always talking about purpose, but purpose is everything. That's why it's important to have the 5 W's and the H, who, what, where, when, why, and we're not going to go into that, but I mean, it's something that we will definitely get into, because you need to know who you are. You need to know your purpose, why you're here, what is your assignment, how do you become more effective, how do you become more influential. Some people look at what they have and they think, man, I don't really have nothing to offer the world. But if everybody had the same thing to offer, if every corner just had McDonald's, how boring would that be? You know what I'm saying? Like, we are people that God created a variety. We are a people that have color. We are a people that are unique and different. And I think learning to understand that even though we have all these mixtures that make us different and unique, we still all function. And that goes back to the Garden of Eden. God created time to help us and to keep us into a track. I always think back to Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane in Matthew 26, because what happened when he was in the garden? He was weighed down by all the filth and the stress of the world, that even Jesus himself in verse 39 says, when he walked a short distance away and overcome with grief. So even Jesus, he was overwhelmed. He was on the verge of that breakdown. He threw himself face down on the ground, prayed, my Father, if there is any way you can deliver me from this suffering, please take it away. Yet, he said, what I want is not important, for I only desire to fulfill your plan for me. Even Jesus understood, hey, yes. I don't want to do this. I am overwhelmed. If there's a way out, that's great. But if this is your way for my way out, then let me fulfill it, knowing that I'm doing my purpose.
Right. And again, back to last week as well, not only did Jesus come, to save us from our sins and to establish a law, he also came and had to come from a kairos place, from a place of eternity, into a chronos, from a sequential time era, to reestablish kairos back into chronos. Right. If that makes sense, if you guys are following me.
No, it's perfect, because the reality is we can't, as much as we'd like to, we can't stop time. We can't stop time. That is the one thing that when it was placed into action, it was something that every one of us are within those boundaries. We can't stop it, but what we can do with the time that God gave us is be effective. We can be effective in the time that God gave us, and that helps determine our outcome. Does that make sense? So what I'm asking is, how is your time management? Let's start off with that question. How is your time management? Let's take just a second off the top of your head. Some people can say, well, I think I'm doing pretty good. Some people can say, I'm really just kind of all over the place. And I'm telling you, because this is something that I've struggled with in my personal life. I am not a planner. And if anybody that knows me, I mean, for me, it's something that I'm really working on, because I'm a visionary. I can dream and I can cast vision, and I can see the finished product. The problem is, I need those people in my life that help walk me through the steps, because I'm not a manager of that, and that's kind of a bad thing for me. But I'm working through that. I'm learning and I'm growing, and I'm helping to discover for myself what do I need to do? How do I manage that time to be effective? And that's a question you need to ask. Is your time managed and balanced, where you give some of your time to help others and some of your time for self-development? Or where are you in your time management? So it's a great question, and you don't have to answer it right now, but make sure you write it down, and then later on this week or something, or tomorrow, however you feel, go through that question and really ask yourself, because in our process of pursuing and living in our purpose, we've got to know those questions. I think it's important.
Well, how do you, when you're in pursuit of your purpose, your time is everything. That's why we hear businessmen and wealthy men say time is money. Thank you. Time is money. Money. And and we see it. We see it every day in our workplace. Some workplaces incorporate overtime, and they say, hey, if you work a certain amount of time, we'll pay you for it. And people will chew that up. Or We see that in workplaces where people are not the best time managers, and I see it as an employer. I've interviewed people before, and I'm like, what are some of your strengths? And they're like, time management. I'm really good at time management, blah, blah, blah. One time I had this lady, and I said, what are some of your strengths? She said, time management. I'm really good at it, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if she was nervous or what the case was, but I said, okay, and what's a weakness of yours? And she said, time management. And I'm like, how could something be a strength and a weakness?
Right.
But, you know, taking into consideration that people do get nervous during interviews, I just found it funny because we live in that kind of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we prioritize what we want when we want it, but the things that really do need to be prioritized are not prioritized.
They're not a priority.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Yeah, I agree. I know that you had said that time, how'd you say, time is an interruption?
Time is a piece of eternity.
Time is a piece of eternity. Time is an interruption of eternity as well. Because when we think about going back, I don't want to get sidetracked, but going back to what you were saying about Adam and Eve, we learned that in the garden, when God placed Adam and Eve in the garden, he told them, this is the place that you will manage. This is what I've given to you to manage. Now, when we look at that statement, we know that God, in the Bible they say that God put the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now, what's cool about that is that God created time to protect us. So we think of it as an enemy. We think of it as something that's horrible. But time was placed into earth to keep us from eternity. Why? Why do you think God placed that? Because if when Adam and Eve sinned, if they were functioning in eternity, they would be eternally damned.
And so I have some keys that's gonna lead all back to this.
Okay.
All of it. And I'm just gonna briefly go over them, and then maybe we can dissect them a little bit more if we have time, or next week, whatever the case may be.
Is there any questions first? First and foremost, let's just ask real quick if there's any questions, then we'll jump in to this. So if there's any questions that are coming up, if you're good, give us thumbs up, give us hearts. Just let us know that you're understanding so far, where we're going, where we're at. I'll try to kind of keep up on this down here off to the side so that if I catch something, we can do it as well. Okay.
All right.
Let's go.
So these are 10 keys to maximizing your potential and your time.
Slow down. So write it down. 10 keys to maximizing. What is it?
Your potential and time.
Your potential and time. 10 keys.
So the first key we discussed last week actually is document a plan. Put a plan on what you want to accomplish in a specific amount of time. So sometimes we get so caught up in like the vision of it that we're like, oh, in 20 years I want to do this. And then like 20 years comes and like we don't do it, which is fine. But like use your time wisely of saying, okay, within 6 weeks I want to accomplish this. Or whatever the case may be, so that way you're living in your moment, but you're also developing yourself while you're living in the moment. Because in order to get to that goal, you have to maximize your time in the now to do that. So for an example, you want to get more in shape, or you want to start working out, and you're like, well, I have a vacation coming up, I don't want to look this way, so I'm going to use this amount of time until then to get to where I want to be, or try to get to where I want to be. You use that goal, and it's up to you of whether or not you're going to use your time to accomplish that goal. And so this was pretty much kind of what we discussed last week. Put it in action. Make a plan, put it in action, and make it simple enough for you to be able to make that goal. Start
with small steps. If it's small things that maybe you're like, you know what, I really want to get closer to God. I'm really having a desire to learn and understand. Maybe I've been to other churches, or maybe I've been aware of who God is, but I've never really fully understood the Bible. Then make a plan. Write a plan down. What the steps are that you would like to see establish your closeness to God. How do you want to do that? Do you want better understanding in the Word of God? Are you wanting to, understand better about worship or praise or prayer or any of those things? Create a small plan and begin to build off of that. Sometimes as a people, when we think about something that we have to write down, we always go for the fence, right? And there's nothing wrong with creating a long-term goal or vision. The problem is when people are used to failing. When you're used to failing, when you set a goal too far, you've set yourself up for failure again.
Right. And, with that, where there's no vision or goals, there's failure. And so I don't want to, after you hear this, if you're listening to this message, I don't want to see or hear anybody with the spirit of jealousy, because all it is a lack of time management. If somebody looks better than you, you right away want to envy them or be jealous of them, but what has that person done to put the work in to look how they look? Or what has that person done to put the work in to have what they have? We see people and they have, these nice things, and they're going on nice vacations and they're driving nice cars, and people right away want to be like, what did they do? Or who did they, excuse my language, but who did they screw over to get where they are? And that's not the case. It's like, what did you do? What goals did you have? How did you manage your time to get what you have?
Well, and the other thing that you have to remember is every person is unique and different, okay? So as a people, as children of God, we shouldn't be jealous of somebody else because you see them prospering. You should celebrate and rejoice. When you see somebody being blessed, when I see our kids or our spiritual kids that God is blessing them, or they get a new car or whatever it is, we are excited. We get so excited, and it's not well, geez, I wonder what they did. I wonder, who, like you said, who did they screw over to get
But it's the mindset that you have to break, because if you want it, you have every opportunity to get it. He has 24 hours just as much as I have 24 hours, just as much as the beggar on the side of the road has 24 hours.
Now here's the difference. Here's the difference. When you are a person, this is a great learning lesson. If you are a person that is very selfless, okay? If you're a selfless person and you're always giving, and your time is always for everybody else and not for yourself, when you decide to pull those reins back a little bit, people are going to look at you like, what's wrong with them?
Right, they're going to look a little bit.
They're going to be a little bit upset because your time that you've been giving out to everybody is being pulled back. Now, you look at a person who is very selfish, people have accepted it. They're like, oh, they're always like that, it's not a big deal.
That's just them, it's how it is.
They're basically like, hey, I'm going to take care of me first, and then if there's any other time after that, I'll prioritize on how I want to do that.
This goes out to all of my pastors' kids, people who have lived in the leadership or have been in it in a long time. You always need time to refill yourself. Yeah. And so, we give and give and give and give, but when we do decide to take that time to step back and rejuvenate and kind of get ourselves in line, it's an offense to people. And that's part of one of my goals in here, or not one of my goals, but one of my keys is, you can't continue to be a people pleaser, because there's always going to be somebody who doesn't like it. You can be standing in front of the biggest, beautifulest, juiciest peach tree, and there's still going to be somebody who doesn't like peaches. Yep.
Or somebody that complains about the size of the peach. Or, you know what I'm saying? There's always something, and this is the mentality of a person's perception. And this is what hopefully you're learning this morning, because what we want to do is we want to change your perception. We want you to stop feeling like you're possessive of everything. Okay, we don't need to be possessive of everything. We don't have to hoard. It's a time that we are developing ourselves, and we're promoting the people around us. That is a kingdom mindset. That is a God's kingdom mindset. When we talk about God and His heavenly realm, we know that God up in heaven isn't like, oh, this is mine, oh, that's mine too, oh, that's yours. He doesn't have a mentality like that. God is a God of grace, and God is a God of love. Now, He has the ultimate say over everything. But when He created earth, He said, I want to have you enjoy the benefits and the authority that I have in heaven. So when He placed us on earth, there's a lot of us that are going through problems or trials or issues, and you're waiting for God to do something, and God's like, but I've equipped you with everything I have. Inside of you, you are incomplete. I want to say that again. Inside of you, you are incomplete. You are complete. Yeah, there is nothing incomplete in you. Okay? There is nothing incomplete. You are complete. God has equipped you with everything you need. Yep. And guess what's awesome about that? what I have and what you have, even though they may be different, they accent the big picture. They complement each other. We're all gifted. We all have. So if she's gifted to sing and I'm not, it doesn't mean that I need to really try to figure out how I can become a singer. It's her gift. I appreciate the gift. I don't need to hate on it. I don't need to bash it. I don't need to have this grudge. Well, I wish I could sing, but that it's okay that you can appreciate and say, I wish I could sing, but God didn't create you to sing. Maybe there's something different that God did create you for that you are effective in. Flourish in the gifts that God's given to you, and be blessed by the people around you that are also flourishing in the gifts that God has given them.
Okay, so can I get into this?
Yeah.
Okay, so the second key is just very simple. Establish your priorities based on that plan. So how you're prioritizing your day to get to that goal or to those plans to get you to the big picture. Now, if we look at a big picture from far away, we don't see the detail that goes into it. If there's a painting and we look at the painting just from the wall, we don't see all the detail that went into it to make that painting. We just see the finished product. But what it takes is, to prioritize exactly what we're wanting to get at, where we're trying to go, and how we're trying to establish our vision. So, prioritize your time and make yourself a priority, but don't be selfish in that, because your purpose will always benefit others.
One thing I'd love to add on that is sometimes you need to step away and appreciate the progress that you've made. I know, being somebody that looks at fine details of stuff, every time I do something, somebody can say, wow, that's a really good job. And my first response is, yeah, but I kind of messed up here. Or yeah, I didn't do this right. Because I know my product. I know what I'm doing, and I see the small things. And it's okay to have a mentality of excellence, but sometimes you have to take a step back and appreciate the progress that you've made. Not being stuck there, not saying, well, I'm a lot better than where I was. That's compromise. That's saying, okay, I'm far enough, I don't need to do anything else. When we come to a plateau, that's a very dangerous place.
Always make room to be teachable, because somebody might have a key or might have a way or an easier way for you to get to where you're wanting to be or to help you, and you're so stubborn in your ways that you're like, no, I want to do it my way, I want to do it my way, and there's somebody there that's like, let me help you because I've already done this before, right. But we're so stuck in the mentality of like, me, I can do it on my own, I'm independent. That's great, but when you're so independent to where you're not teachable, that's a dangerous place to be in, because now you're no longer listening to the counsel or to the leaders that God's placed in your life. You're only listening to yourself, and isolation is the number one thing that'll separate you from God.
So one of the points, like a sub point, if I can give you this, is we're still talking about time management, but in that process,